Mhm. All right, we are
Well, good
live.
evening, everyone. And if you had a chance to check out the thumbnail, that is the uh, cover art for Newsweek. And so I wanted to read through this Newsweek article, and I'm going to share it on the screen. Once again, if you want a little tip and you don't want to be like bombarded with ads and everything, you can use the Brave browser, and then it has like a reader mode,
Mhm.
and that way it doesn't. You don't have to get bombarded with the articles and all the cookie stuff and all that good stuff. But if y'all remember, uh, Allison Myro had us on her channel, and there was a Rolling Stones article about Wrangler Star
Mhm.
and Cody over at Wrangler Star. And Rolling Stone painted like homesteaders as extremists, and
Mhm.
we talked about that and the jargon and the wordsmithery and how they were going to be painting and creating this narrative. And this is a continuation of that new narrative. And the words in this article are incredibly uh, polarizing at best. And, you know, I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to the political stage and all that stuff. But listen to what is written here by the propagandists. And for those of you that don't know, short, angry mustache man was on the cover of Newsweek way back in the day, and so that's an interesting correlation as well. Lots of propaganda has been on the cover of Newsweek,
Mm.
and I don't know when Newsweek was actually news or anything, but anyway, exclusive: Donald Trump followers targeted by FBI as 2024 election nears. And now there's a couple of different ways to read
Mhm.
that title. Are they targeting them or are they targeted? So,
Mm.
it's sophistry, it's a little wordsmithery. The
Yep.
government, the government believes that's interesting. Like, well, what's the government? We the people, or whatever. Like, why
Mm.
is there this bifurcation of this duly elected democratic republic and its constituencies when it's of by and for the people? But the
Mm.
government believes like there's some type of collective hive mind or whatever. The government believes that the threat of violence, which the government actually holds the threat of violence, like when they come to collect those taxes and whatnot. But the government believes that the threat of violence and major civil disturbances is so great, it has quietly created a new category of extremist, MAGA. And if they were quietly creating that, and now it's on the cover of Newsweek.
No longer.
So hence the continuous programming.
Mm.
Um, the federal government believes that the threat of violence, okay, it repeated, and I repeat myself. Okay, so the challenge for the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the primary federal agency charged with law enforcement, really, okay, that's cute too, but is to, I don't want to dissect this entire article and everything that's wrong with it, but is to pursue and prevent what it calls domestic terrorism without direct reference to political parties or affiliations, even though the vast majority of its current anti-government investigations are of Trump supporters, according to classified data obtained by Newsweek. The FBI is in an almost impossible position, says the current FBI official who requested anonymity to discuss highly sensitive internal matters. And first off, none of that is totally bogus. Like, they leak this stuff on purpose at will. They have a division for that sole purpose. So there's none of this like, oh, this is highly classified and all that stuff. The really secret stuff, yeah. if they don't want you to know about it, you ain't got to know about it. Which speaks to all these UFO whistleblowers and all that other stuff too. But this is the way that the game is played. This is the way that Cambridge Analytica does it. This is the way that all of the color revolutions, whether they were in Egypt or Crimea or wherever they were and wherever they are, it's the same playbook and it's the same usual suspects. And it's obviously the deep state, CIA, FBI, just like all of those that were supposedly involved at the J6 thing, right? And then come to find out 6 out of every 10 were like insiders and informants, just like the Janet Whitmer kidnapping thing. It's the same playbook, and they do that. They never really change the playbook at all. They just, it's like a really bad sequel to like Back to the Future 8 or something like that. So the FBI is in an almost impossible position. If the official said that the FBI is intent on stopping domestic terrorism,
oh boy,
and any repeat of J6, attack on the Capitol, but the Bureau must also preserve the constitutional right of all Americans to campaign, speak freely, and protest the government. By focusing on former President Trump and his MAGA supporters, make America great again. They want to make America great again. That's so terrible. The official said the Bureau runs the risk of provoking the very anti-government activists that the terrorism agencies hope to counter, especially at a time when the White House is facing congressional Republican opposition claiming that the Biden admin has weaponized the Bureau. Come here, break. Yeah, thank you for stating the obvious against the right wing. And it's definitely weaponized. First off, the Biden administration didn't weaponize the Bureau. The Bureau is a weaponization against humanity. So I really can't stand the partisan, stuff, because it's kind of a joke. But at the same time, I certainly don't for one second think that anybody that thinks that Donald Trump would be a good president in the general construct of what we understand the uniparty and this left-right paradigm and the Pepsi Coke, red team, blue team stuff. They certainly aren't terrorists. They have just as much hope, belief, and passion in their side of the coin as the liberals and the crazy blue-haired people have in their insane side of the socialist fascist, which is why there's a lot of fascism intermingled on both sides of the uniparty. But yeah, these people certainly aren't terrorists. Come here, break. Newsweek spoke to over a dozen current and former government officials who specialize in terrorism. Oh, good. They spoke to specialists.
Oh, good.
They went to college. I went to college for terrorism. How do you think we stopped Al Qaeda? In a 3-month investigation to understand the current domestic security landscape and to evaluate what President Joe Biden's administration is doing about what it calls domestic terrorism. They've been setting this plate for all this domestic terrorism stuff. And, anybody that's traditional, anybody that has traditional values or fundamental Christianity,
you're a terrorist.
Yeah, you're a terrorist. If you like the way America used to be, you're obviously a terrorist because we need more insurgents, like just invading the border and, punching people in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And, doing all that stuff. It's great. And sucking up all the government assistance and everything.
Yeah.
Most requested anonymity because they were not authorized to talk publicly, were reluctant to stray into partisan politics, or feared the repercussions of speaking frankly. Wow. It's been asked, Newsweek. And that's also to create this veneer that this is like real reporting, and they're gonna protect their sources and all that nonsense.
Sure.
Newsweek has also reviewed secret FBI. Whatever happened to this all needs to be redacted because of national security. Why isn't this whole article redacted for national security? I mean, we're talking about national security. We really shouldn't be allowing the general population outside of the prison planet to be knowing all this national security stuff that's going on, because this is clearly, I mean, how else are we going to be able to like protect and uphold the Constitution and let people speak freely and campaign and all that stuff? What a joke. But what it is revealing, it's revealing how contrived this entire democratic process has always been and is right now. And I will refer you once again to the Civil War and everything that Abraham Lincoln did to any dissenters and how he locked them up and all that cool stuff. Yeah. So much for like that Constitution and whatnot, and freedoms and the liberty of speech and all that good stuff. The current wait, it talks about Al-Qaeda in here. While experts agree that the current partisan environment is charged and uniquely dangerous with the threat not only of violence, and it's always, it's partisan, and the threat's always from the opposition. There's not like dueling threats on both sides, right? It's always completely one-sided, and it's obviously overtly partisan, and it's partisan one way. And I promise you that if, however, it does flop with the election, that dialectic won't change either, And when you think about it, with the deep state, CIA, FBI, and all these we don't elect non-elected officials with all this technocratic power, how could it, right? Oh, well, but if I put my buddy in, it'll all be better or whatever. Anyway, this partisan environment is charged and uniquely dangerous with the threat of not only of violence, but in the most extreme scenarios, possibly civil war. And yes, and I've been saying that's what they've been wanting to recreate and to foment, is a civil war. That's why all the Hollyweird stuff and the Captain America was called Civil War. And that's why, Tim Pool keeps talking about it. And we see this balkanization, right? We see the balkanization of the country. But yeah, they want a civil war, which is why they do everything in plain sight. And it's why they're not doing things clandestinely and covertly anymore, because if you do your nefarious deeds in broad daylight, law-abiding citizens look at that and say, why should I follow the rules if the district of criminals and those that participate in Clown World 2.0 don't follow the rules? It's just like gun laws, all that stuff, right? Like, bad dudes that break the law don't follow gun laws. Okay, so we need more gun laws. Many also question whether terrorism is the most effective way to describe the problem, or that the methods of counterterrorism developed over the past decade in response to Al-Qaeda and other Islamist groups, big time setup, dude. All this fundamental Islamic terrorism, it was all a construct that was it was created by the vacuum that we create by blowing up the rest of the world and killing a bunch of innocent people, right? So you make a bunch of people mad, and then we create the database, otherwise known as Al-Qaeda. And probably 80% of them are all, Blackwater guys that work for Eric Prince and all that stuff. Okay. Other Islamist groups constitute the most fruitful way to craft domestic solutions. The current political environment is not something that the FBI is necessarily responsible for, nor should it be, said Brian Michael Jenkins, one of the world's leading terrorism experts and senior advisor to the president of the Rand Corporation. You want to do a little bit of reading? You should read about the Rand Corporation and what the Rand Corporation has done for the last 40 years and the think tank stuff that they do and all the DARPA and all the social conscription and brainwashing, and hence this article in Newsweek. And what do you know? They're interviewing Brian Michael Jenkins, who works for the Rand Corporation. And of course, he's a senior advisor to Joe Biden. So there you go. In a statement to Newsweek, the FBI said the threat posed by the domestic violent extremists is persistent, evolving, and deadly. The FBI's goal is to detect and stop terrorist attacks. That's why you let BLM blow up the world and you televise it and you say these are mostly peaceful demonstrations except for the buildings that are burning down and the robbing of all the stores, right? It's all part of postmodern deconstructionism. It's all postmodern deconstructionism. And that's why you leak propaganda like this out. This is a psychological operation to continue to reinforce this domestic terrorism, and this is why we need to stack and pack and track you. This is why we need all of your Wi-Fi devices reporting on you. This is why we need your neighbor ratting you out. If you see something, say something, In a statement to Newsweek, the FBI's goal is to detect and stop terrorist attacks, and our focus is on potential criminal violations, violence, and threats of violence, anti-government or anti-authority violent extremism is one category of domestic terrorism, as well as one of the FBI's top threat priorities. The FBI further said, "We are committed to protecting the safety and constitutional rights of all Americans and will never open an investigation based solely on First Amendment protected activity, including persons' political beliefs or affiliations." So guess what they're going to do, y'all? Guess what all the algorithms already do? Okay. So whenever they directly say that they're not going to do it, that is an indictment of actually absolutely what they are currently doing. Okay. All of that stuff has already been, that is how they're filtering you out. Okay. Just so you know. The White House declined to comment. The Trump campaign was given an opportunity to comment, but did not do so. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not my monkey, not my circus. What the FBI data shows. I wonder where they got their data. From the president down, the Biden administration has presented Trump and MAGA as an existential threat to American democracy. These are just straight up media mockingbird talking points. They talked up the risk of domestic terrorism and violence associated with the 2024 election campaign. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. President Biden tweeted last September, the first time that he explicitly singled out the former president. MAGA Republicans aim to question not only the legitimacy of past elections, many past elections, not just the past election. Okay. That's where I would like some people to be a little bit more honest, but elections being held now and into the future, Biden said. Biden's Homeland Security advisor, some woman, Liz Sherwood Randall, of course, she has a hyphenated last name because that's the only culturally appropriated way to spell your last name is with a hyphen. The use of violence to pursue political ends is a profound threat to our public safety and national security. BLM isn't, but MAGA is. It is a threat to our national identity, our values, our norms, our rule of law, our democracy. For attorney Merrick Garland, hey, y'all, did y'all watch or listen to the interview I had with Chris Emery on the Fearless podcast, right, about the Oklahoma City bombing and how Merrick Garland was quintessentially a key component of that and what was that all about? Domestic terrorists. And what do you know now? Now Merrick Garland is the AG. And what are we dealing with? Domestic terrorism. And what do we know about all of that stuff back then? What was that? Pat Kong, right? The operation PatCong, right? And that was all about patriotic Americans or domestic terrorists, right? And all this black ops infiltration. And we're going to infiltrate every militia group, which they have done effectively and efficiently. For Attorney General Merrick Garland, attacks by domestic terrorists are attacks on all of us collectively, on us, the Borg, aimed at rending the fabric of a democratic society and driving us apart. Yeah. So somehow conservative people are tearing society apart. The people that make all the money and pay all the taxes and actually have children and raise children and understand their biological God-given identity, those people are that get up and go to work every day and pay all the taxes so that everybody can stay home and play Xbox and think about how they're going to gender reassign their 2-month-old baby and all that cool stuff. Yeah, those people. But here's the thing. If you lock up all those MAGA people, who's going to pay taxes? Which is why they need to Grand Theft World and hijack the whole shooting match, because there's going to be nobody left to pay taxes. And they're cool with that. The FBI's data, because there's a lot of people that'll reconcile this as like, look, this is never going to happen because they want everybody to pay taxes. Well, once they've Grand Thefted the entire world, it will be relative. Though the FBI's data shows a dip in the number of investigations since the slew of January 6 cases ended. And here's the other thing I want to see about all this J6 stuff. I want to see Trump and all his peeps and all his female attorneys that like to always quote the Bible and everything and be all super Christian and whatnot. I want to see Trump and all his people. I want to see them aggressively go after getting these innocent people released from prison. Okay. Because these people supported this man, and I think he's a fraud and a charlatan. And I want to see him aggressively work at getting these people out of prison, because what he's going to say is, if I get elected, I'll get y'all out. I'll pardon you. Oh, sorry, I didn't get elected. You get to rot in jail still. Well, he still waltzes around. I know they're trying to destroy him. You know, and the other thing is if you're honest and real, you know, people get stuck in the dialectic and they don't like to talk about it, but they keep trying to destroy him financially. And he's still, they financially destroyed Kanye West, right? That's being financially destroyed. Donald Trump's still a billionaire. Like his net worth has not been affected in a major way. Okay. Still, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting. I want to watch it. I want to see it happen. And then I'll say, oh yeah, well, wow, they did it. And they financially trashed him. Still haven't seen that yet. Not only that, it's too late. Everything should be structured and trusted out anyway, so that it's completely impervious, which is another thing that's a joke. You know, with that kind of money and that kind of planning and this kind of foresight and the preemptive attacks, it should all be lead pipe locked in different types of trust, that it should absolutely be untouchable, even if they wanted to try to touch it. The FBI's data shows a dip in the number of investigations. In a joint report to Congress this June, the Bureau and DHS say that threats from DVEs, okay, so we got a new acronym, y'all, domestic violent extremists, have increased in the last 2 years, and any further increases in threats likely will correspond to potential flashpoints, such as high-profile elections, campaigns, or contentious current events. Now, the only flashpoints that I'm aware of are densely populated areas, y'all. Yeah. So if you want to avoid a flashpoint, avoid a densely populated synthetic concrete jungle with a complete and total artificial infrastructure. Now, that's a flashpoint that I would avoid. The FBI and DHS report concludes socio-political developments such as narratives of fraud in the recent general election, the emboldened impact of the violent breach of the U.S. Capitol, conditions related to the Rona, and conspiracy theories promoting violence. Haven't heard any of those conspiracy theories promoting violence yet.
Not yet.
Will almost certainly spur some domestic terrorists to try to engage in violence. Now, if it doesn't, I'm certainly sure some MK Ultra sheep dipped guy name, maybe even his last name used to be McVeigh, will pop out of the woodwork and he'll do some domestic terrorism, making America great again. Never believe your eyes when they transmit their scam and they tell you what they're going to do. And the threats listed in the paragraph are all clearly associated with America's right, and in particular with Trump's MAGA supporters. Right after January 6th, the FBI co-authored a restricted report, Domestic Violent Extremists Emboldened in the Aftermath of Capitol Breach, Elevated Domestic Terrorism Threat of Violence, Likely Amid Political Transitions and Beyond. Yeah, we saw how that all got disrupted. It was so terrible how the supposedly duly elected resident was allowed to reside where he does right now. It was, same song, same dance, same clowns. Now we have another new, hold on a second. We have another new, it shifted the definition of agave, anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremism. So all that BLM stuff, there was no anti-government, anti-authority violence. When you like rob stores at will and steal all their stuff, is that anti-government and anti-authority? Or is that just people gots to eat? I gots to eat, y'all, so I'm going to go steal a bunch of Gucci handbags or whatever. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't wonder why they didn't talk about that on Newsweek. For the first time, such groups could be so labeled because of their politics. It was a subtle change, little noticed. So as you can see, they continue to, there's this fly here. They continue all of this partisan rhetoric, and you can check it out. It's right on Newsweek. I won't bore you to death by reading all the talking points, but they're continuing to build this narrative, right? First, it's going to be homesteaders and Wrangler Star.
Yeah.
And now it's just anybody that wants any semblance of normalcy or the way that America used to be 3 to 5 short years ago, or maybe even preferably much longer, maybe 100 years ago. I would like America to be maybe the way it was like 100 plus years ago. Be kind of
that'd
nice.
Be really nice.
I'd really like for them to leave kids alone and leave children alone and not kidnap people and sell them for money and all that stuff. But leave your thoughts and comments down below.
Yeah, we would really like to hear that
about the this new and does anybody, what I'm also fascinated with, does anybody even read these propaganda mags anymore?
Like I guess the people that watch CNN still, I guess, have to read those.
They telegraph their moves. So, I mean, that's why I look at this stuff, to keep an eye on it, to just know how they're framing the narrative. But did people even honestly, I mean, does anybody besides Whoopi Goldberg read any of that nonsense and think that it has any merit whatsoever? Clayton said, good thing I'm not a Republican or Democrat. And I completely, I say amen to that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the other thing. It's very frustrating when you have these liberal states and these lunatics hijack everything. And then people say, well, you voted for that. Well,
nobody voted for that.
No,
it's just like the crazy pink hair lunatics that are getting into the Texas government, and nobody in their right mind would ever vote for any of them.
Yeah, I didn't vote for any of this stuff Abbott's doing with this guy in Houston that's creating this illegal immigrant squatter city with all of these, middle-aged Chinese militant, whatever, and MS-13 and all that stuff.
Yeah. Crazy.
I didn't vote for any of that stuff, but, what kind of response is that? Well, you voted for it. And these are these is what left-wing politics gets you. Well, here we have this supposedly right-wing conservative state, and there's tens of thousands, almost, people per day coming over the border. And you know, while Abbott does, you know, Ken Paxton just got acquitted of all of his stuff. And I do believe there was some shenanigans there, but he is a scumbag and he's cheating on his wife and everything else. So I can't have a lot of sympathy for the guy, especially when he goes on Tucker Carlson and then he's like, you know, the reason I was acquitted was because of Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. Well, why wasn't Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior when you were cheating on your wife with your girlfriend and getting her this job? That's just terrible. I really despise these. These are men of less than zero character. That's why they can get into the position they're at, because they just do not have any, you know, they have so many skeletons in their closet. They're easily manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing with Trump and Roy Cohen and Jeffrey McJepstein and all that stuff. If you think that he doesn't have skeletons, you're crazy. Yeah. Teflon Don. That guy is just cannot be that clean, especially when if you knew Melania's background and where they got introduced and all that stuff. And you knew all the crazy shady junk he did with all the Atlantic City casinos and stealing little old ladies' property with eminent domain and then building some cheesy Taj Mahal casino and then bankrupting it out 3 or 4 times and stiffing all of his vendors. Yeah.
What the heck?
Straight up gangster moves. But yeah, let us know what you think about all of this domestic terrorism. And let me know what you think about Mr. T getting his booster. Mr. T just got his booster. I think he was wearing Skechers, y'all. And they had to drag Mr. T.
Who's Mr. T? Trump?
No, he might be talking about Trump. I thought he was talking about, if y'all missed it, Mr. T from the A-Team, B.A. Baracus, they drug him out of the mothball peanuts and he got his booster and he was wearing red Skechers and he was telling everybody to get their booster.
Nice.
So, I don't know. He might
trust the science.
Yeah, he might not be breathing right now, but I thought that was interesting. But
it is a bunch of nonsense. It is.
It's a bunch of Johnny nonsense. Greg Abbott is using our National Guard to process immigration faster at the borders to make the record numbers accepted in one day. I completely, Owen Schroyer is going to prison for nothing. It's crazy. Do I think that they would have brought up the Trump garbage if it was real? When they need to, they will. And the left, I mean, you know, how about, do you think the right would talk about Hunter's laptop and all that stuff? Like, what difference does any of that make? What difference does it make if they even did? And do you honestly think that Trump is like some squeaky clean choir schoolgirl thing? I mean, give me a break. He's a straight up gangster. Roy Cohen was his mentor. And he was super tight with Jeffrey McJepstein and all these cats. And he's posing with the Clintons. It's all the same. Please do not be deceived by the dialectic. That's all I'm saying. And here's the thing. It's just like, just be honest. You know, that's all. Like, you can easily look at all the super ultra mega scumbag stuff that Trump did with casinos. And for all of y'all that aren't aware of how those circles work, like, you have mega ties to the mob, and the mob is still real. They still operate. Most of them now work at the District of Criminals. They just went legit, you know, and you think that they're pouring concrete and picking up your trash, but they are doing other things like networking.
The Corbett Report has a lot of good stuff on Trump. Like, about his past.
Yeah, same thing with Elon.
Everything.
You know, we all want a hero. And we
it's awesome.
And we all want to think that it's going to be that simple.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be this one guy. And that's what's fascinating about studying history. And when you look at these frontiersmen like Kit Carson and all of these guys,
these
guys were like almost superhuman. And now, hey, was a lot of their biographical stuff, more tall tale? maybe yes, maybe no. These men did incredible things.
These jokers, man, just them like traveling the distances is just incredible.
Yeah, they had
in and of itself.
Impeccable character, you know, and unfortunately, nobody in the public circle, nobody, I mean, could even remotely hold a candle to this average Joe frontier woodsman, let alone have the intestinal fortitude. How about 5 Republicans that just had the intestinal fortitude to not raise the debt ceiling? I mean, how can you stop if you can't even stop the spending, how are you going to stop anything? You know, we can't even stop the crackhead spending. So,
very true.
They are all criminals, and they all work together, and they all go out for a drink. They all yell and scream and point fingers, and then they all eat T-bone steaks and drink Bud Lights when they're done. That's how.
On their big private jets.
And that's just weird, you know, that you're still 100% Trump, because that's just weird. That's because that's fanaticism. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. You gotta be logical and coherent enough to be honest. And, you know, and how do you explain that people supported him? He did rally them to the Capitol. They're rotting in jail, and he's doing nothing about it. But, well, he can't. Yeah, yes, he can. He could talk about it every time he gets to open his big fat mouth. You know, he could talk about it on Tucker, didn't say anything. He could talk about it on CNN. He never says nothing. He could tweet about it on Truth Social. He could rally his base to create a bigger stink about it. Nothing. Crickets. People rotting in jail like grandmas. Grandmas rotting in jail. Does nothing about it. Oh, he's got to worry about all of these indictments that come on, man. Nothing going to happen. Nothing happened last time. Still a billionaire. They've been attacking him and taking away all his money. Still a billionaire. Hasn't lost a dime. So just saying. I don't know. The unfortunate thing is that those are facts, and they create
facts have no feelings.
Cognitive dissonance with, you know, these QAnon realities and all these white hats and, you know, Beth Moore and all this stuff, you know. Yeah, Beth Moore and 1 Corinthians whole ball game, all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. The Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. Yeah. He's just playing y'all out. That's all. Just saying. I'm not saying they're not attacking him. I'm not saying the attacks aren't real. But I'm saying, like, for all of the attacks and the way that this is painted is literally the entire libtard world is against him. And he is just so smart and so impervious, and nothing happens to him. I grew up watching WWF. It's now called WWE, right? And it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And Sununu's son talks about it all the time. Sununu was a congressman, I think, in Pennsylvania. And he's been on a lot of podcasts. He's wrote a book about this fake dialectic, and they yell and scream, and they get together for dinner. And it's the same thing. It's just like Trump, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. And then he gets elected, and, oh, she's a good person, and the Clintons are great. You know what I mean? But Mustang, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, why did a guy say lock her up and thank WikiLeaks and thank Julian Assange, but Julian Assange rots in jail, and Hillary never got 1 inch closer to being locked up ever? Like, and why isn't that like why doesn't that like be like, yeah, wow, that's weird? So they were just talking points.
Yeah. And
then why did Trump say we take the guns first and then we worry about due process later, and he banned bump stocks and all that stuff? Why did he?
I would say one of the biggest ones is warp speed. I mean, dude.
Well, yeah, that's so obvious, you know, the lockdown and the warp speed.
Stupid,
you know, and you just got to be honest. That's all. It's okay. But the only way you're going to make any kind of progress anywhere is to just be honest. If you can't be honest with yourself, then
yeah, and to
you gotta
realize that
reevaluate.
the only change that you can make in the world is you being the change and not passing the buck to some
and how could
guy.
anybody say I'm 100% anything, especially with a politician?
Yeah, I really wish it was.
I don't
as
see
easy as
Trump
that.
stopping or doing anything.
Stupid fly.
Yeah, look at this fly.
I know.
They're going to think I'm Barry Soetoro.
I think you're stinking Obama. It's terrible.
That was this Barry Soetoro reference. All right, y'all. Well, it's been another great stream here. Let's see here. Interesting to point out, all this madness in USMSN, yet not one word about the $200+ million daily budget that has killed over 500,000 Ukrainians. Yeah, and they just want to continue to fund that madness. And how many left and right were all on board to fund that crazy nonsense, and they keep doing it? How crazy is that?
Well, actually, Mustang, YouTubers have actually been doing a lot recently. Our channel has been doing a lot, actually, fighting against a lot of this crap, against the government. And one of the biggest things of recently has been the Amish farmers. And we've really been able to push back against the stinking government. And we've been able to raise thousands of dollars for them to sue. And it's been really good. And we've been actually able to push back and make a difference in the world. And every day we wake up and we go outside and we fight the good fight. You know, we're not just on here talking, you know, we're actually doing too.
Yeah.
You know, in reality.
Well, you better be doing something,
yeah,
or you're just in some.
Now, there are certain YouTubers that are out there and it's all talk and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know, but that's why when we see certain things come up, like the Maui stuff and different things like that, and they got fundraisers, or for the Amish stuff, they got fundraisers for that. We try to spread the news, you know.
And Michael thinks he was duped. And if he look, that's a valid argument. He could have been duped on the whole warp speed, but he should definitely now, he keeps tripling down on it.
He should apologize for that or something.
You know, he saved the world tour. This fly's going to drive me insane. We're going to have to look at that crazy.
I know, it's possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Flies are the devil. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to sign off. Thanks y'all so much for hanging out. And if you do like what we're doing, go check us out at TheTexasBoys.com. We do still have lots of awesome stuff there.
And remember, you are all terrorists and you're terrible people.
And I just want to hug a terrorist, y'all. Hug a terrorist.
That'd be a great t-shirt.
Give him a kiss on the cheek. That's a great t-shirt.
Hug your local terrorist.
Hug a terrorist. Shake a rancher's hand and hug a terrorist.
Yes. Yes.
And this fly.
Yeah, and we're saying all of this stuff out of love, and
this is a comedy show, by the way.
Correct.
So
hence the fly.
Yeah, that's why we introduced the pet fly, because to add levity and humor.
Oh man.
All right, y'all.
All right. Love y'all.
See y'all in the next video.
See y'all later. Bye-bye.